Hi there, BIBA'S here. Today, I just want to discuss with you a little bit about the changes that happened lately in the real estate world. I'm sure you heard in the news. There's a lot of changes, a lot of rules, a lot of inquiries, and mainly it happened because of a lawsuit that made a deal, and that deal changed a little bit the real estate world. So I want to simplify it as much as I can today and try to explain to you what is the changes, and see if I can make it a little bit more simple and clear for you than it is in the news. First, let me start by saying that yes, there is changes. It is different. It's a little bit kind of changed the routine of dealing or doing real estate, especially from the buyer side more than the seller side. But it's not really that dramatic. It's not really that big like the news trying to say. Everything was always negotiable. It's always could be like what it is right now, except that now it's more required. Some stuff that's already exists, but now it's more required, and some stuff that may be hidden now, and it's not very clear on MLS like it used to be. So we're gonna go over that real quick, tell you what changes, and see if that will hopefully remove the confusion, especially on the buyer side. First, let's start with what usually happened before that. Before August 2024, how was it? Before, if a seller want to sell a house, right, he talked to his realtor and they negotiate a contract. They sign a contract between that listing contract, we call it. And this listing in this listing contract, they defined the commission that broker will take from the seller, but also they usually put the how much the seller is willing to pay for the buyer's broker. And they divide the commission between, like, let's say if it's total 6%, 3%, and 3%, or wherever they negotiate together. It could be 5%, 2.5%, 2.5%, or 3 and 2, whatever it is. It's always been negotiable. It's always been like that. But that used to be in the listing contract, and then they put those details, or part of it. They put at least the portion of the commission that usually the buyer broker take. They usually put it on the MLS, or they used to put it on MLS, and everybody can have an access to that. Anybody that has an access to MLS can see how much the seller is willing to pay, what's the portion of the commission for the broker's buyer. That's what it used to be. So now it's like more or less is different. So now the seller negotiate with the broker his commission. The seller, the broker sellers, or the broker agent, or the seller agent, if you want, negotiate with the seller what's his commission, without putting anything in a contract about the buyer's part of the commission, despite if they discuss it that verbally or not, but not in the contract. And now on the buyers, when he choose his agent, is to actually negotiate the buyer's commission. Let me explain here a little bit more. So before August 2024, as a buyer's agent, like myself, for example, I can be a seller agent too, but usually been working with buyers mainly. I used to go just work with a buyer without any contract, without any binding anything, without signing anything. We just simply go look, show properties, and if you like one, we put offer on it, and that's about it. It's pretty simple. Now, it's required me by, if you want, the work of ethics, if you want, it's that I have to sign a contract with a potential buyer before I show him any property. It could be as simple as there is two forms. There is one form that's only made for specific properties, and it could be for 24 hours only. But there is also a more like a buyer agent contract, which could go up to 90 days, and we have to sign this before we start showing properties. Okay, so that's the first requirement. I cannot show any property now before sign a contract with the buyer itself. Now, in this contract, we negotiate my commission. Like, let's say I take 3%, let's say we have to put it in the contract. Now, the buyer can negotiate the seller to pay my commission. That's a different thing, and we will talk about how practically it's gonna happen, or what's gonna happen, or if really is gonna be a dramatic change, and what I think about that. We'll talk about it at the end, but technically we negotiate the commission of the buyer's agent, which is myself, with the buyer. So if the seller didn't want to pay my commission, the buyer is, if he want that property in particular that the seller not willing to pay the buyer's commission, then the buyer is responsible for that commission. How that's gonna translate practically in real life, it could be different, but I'm just talking about the basics, about the rules. And of course, now we can always renegotiate the commission. If we start with 3%, then the seller said, "Hey, I only pay 2.5." We can renegotiate that with the buyer, with my client, and lower the commission to 2.5. Or the buyer have to pay that extra 0.5% of my commission. We cannot find now on MLS how, if the seller is willing to give a buyer or no. We can always call and ask, or even put in an offer, as simple as that. It's like the buyer put in the offer, his purchasing price or his offer, plus he put a clause, if you want, that's saying that for the seller to pay the buyer's commission, which is 2.5%, 3%, whatever the contract that's already done between the buyer's agent and the buyers themselves. So they can do that, and if they can counter offer, I mean the seller can counter offer, is like, no, I'm not gonna pay anything for the buyer's commission, which is very unlikely to happen. But it could be also negotiating it down, that commission. If we ask for 3%, maybe he said, no, I'll only can pay 2.5%, and that's how we can put an offer together, counter offer, and get to an agreement together. But it's important for the buyer to know that, first of all, the commission is negotiable, and second, if the seller end up not paying for the buyer's agent commission, it's the buyer's responsibility to pay for that, or he need to think about different property that the seller is willing to pay the buyer's agent. So that's what's the new rules, and that's what changed. Not the negotiation part, that didn't change, that's always there. Not the possibility of a contract between an agent, a buyer's agent, and a buyer, because that was always there, but it wasn't required. But what changed is that now it's required. You cannot find on MLS now the seller and the seller agent cannot negotiate how much the commission the buyer's agent get. That's between the buyer and his agent only, despite the fact that the buyers can always ask the seller to pay for his agent commission. So that's the rules. Now, what I think is gonna happen on real life, I don't think that's gonna change too much. I believe 90 to 95%, and a lot of the industry agree with me, a lot of experts in the industry agree with me, 90 to 95% of the time, the seller is still gonna offer some type of commission, or paying the commission of the buyer's agent, if he's really interested in selling the house. Because if he didn't, he will reduce that amount of audience for this house, amount of people that might be interested in his house. A lot of buyers, they cannot, more than 90% of buyers, they cannot afford to pay the commission for their agent, because they already need to go out of their pocket for down payment, for inspection, for closing cost, for any for moving to the new house, for a lot of stuff. So they already have to come up with a lot of out-of-pocket stuff, and 2 or 2.5 or 3% of the price of the house as a commission for the buyers is not gonna be very easy or affordable for a lot of pool of those buyers. So the pool of buyers is gonna be very, very small, and he's not gonna sell the house very easy or fast, or maybe ever. So that's why if he really interested on selling in a timely manner, the seller has to offer some type of commission. And here it's on both parties, both agent, the seller representative or the buyer representative, to explain that to both parties, for the buyer to know what's his obligations and what's his rights, and what's the possibility for him, but also the seller's agent. I know if I had a seller, if I'm a listing agent for any property, I want to make sure I explain that to my client, that if you're really interested on selling the house in a timely manner and in a good price, because you'll get better price. When you have more competitive people competing for your home, you're gonna get better price. So if you reduce that pool, of buyers, you're gonna reduce that possibility to have a better offers and higher price for your home and better value. So practically speaking, not too much gonna change. The seller's gonna always offer some kind of commission for the buyer's agent in order to sell his house in a good value and in a timely manner, and the buyer's gonna always count on that in a way. But they can always negotiate it, put it in an offer, and here everything is possible. An approval or denial or a counter offer, everything is possible and negotiable. That's, if you want, in briefly what happened after August 2024, and what changed. Some people are scared about it because change is always scary. It's always different. It's always new. And that's going to define really the skilled realtor between somebody who just want to find a buyer, process the paperwork, and get the commission because it's easy. Now it required more explanation. It required more, we have to explain more for the buyer the value of a realtor. And that's why in our brokers, we prepare something, we call it Buyer's Guide, which is, I carry one of those. If you are interested, you can get one of those. You just give me a call and I'll arrange that. But it's more explaining the importance of a realtor in buying house process in general, and the value for a realtor to a buyer. And that's what's going to be different. It's how good you are to explain your value to the buyer, the more the buyer is willing to actually sign a contract with you and see the importance of having someone on their side when they're doing the journey of buying a house. I hope that video was helpful. I'm getting this question everywhere I go. Everybody know I'm a realtor, so I figured I'll put it on my channel just to explain it a little bit, and I hope it was clear enough. If you still have questions or you need any help navigating this new rules, or you wanna just get this buyer's guide I just made, just feel free to call me on the phone number on the screen. I'm always available. And remember, with me, there's no games, just result. Thank you for watching.